Emily Harper was exhausted. After months of remote work, endless Zoom calls, and city noise that never stopped, she needed to breathe, to disappear for a few days. So she booked a cozy little Airbnb cottage deep in Vermont's countryside. The listing said, peaceful and private, surrounded by nature. Exactly what she needed. When she arrived, the host, a man named Gerald, was waiting by the porch. He looked friendly enough, but distracted. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. He handed her the keys and said something odd before leaving. Oh, and don't go near the back room. It's for storage. Then he walked off without another word. Inside, the cottage was charming in a rustic way. Old furniture, lace curtains, the faint smell of pine wood. But one thing stood out. At the end of the hall was a heavy wooden door. A thick padlock hung from the handle, old and rusted. Emily told herself it was just storage. Still, she couldn't help but stare. Rain began to fall that night, tapping against the windows as she unpacked. The sound was comforting until it wasn't. Pause beat. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, make sure you hit subscribe because what happens next, you won't believe. Rising tension. Sometime around midnight, Emily was reading in bed when she heard it. A faint thump. Then another. And another. It was coming from the hallway. Specifically, the locked door. She held her breath, listening. The sound grew rhythmic, like someone walking, slowly. She whispered, "Hello." No reply. Then, something scraped from the other side, like fingernails dragging against wood. She froze, too scared to move. After what felt like an hour, the noises stopped. She laughed nervously to herself. Old house. Just the pipes. But the next morning, curiosity got the best of her. She texted Gerald. "Hey, I think something's moving in that locked room." He replied in seconds. "It's just the pipes. Don't open it." The quickness of his reply made her skin crawl. He must have had his phone in his hand, waiting. Pause. And hey, before we continue, if you'd already be gone after hearing footsteps in a locked room, smash that like button. Emily didn't. Escalation. Trying to distract herself, Emily went for a hike. The forest was quiet, calm, but she couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched. When she came back that afternoon, her heart sank. In the hallway, right near the locked door, were muddy footprints, small, bare footprints. They led away from the door. Her stomach twisted. That night, it got worse. The thumping returned. Louder. Then came whispers and soft crying. She pressed her ear to the door, heart pounding. "Help me." The voice was faint, but real. Emily stumbled back, shaking. She grabbed her phone and recorded the door, hoping to capture proof. When she checked the video the next morning, the audio started normally, then warped, distorted. A faint voice whispered directly into her mic. "Don't tell him." Her phone slipped from her hands. How could something know she'd texted Gerald? Climax. Emily made up her mind. She was leaving. She stuffed her bag, grabbed her car keys, but when she got outside, her tires were slashed. Every single one. Panic surged. She tried calling Gerald, no answer. Tried calling the police, no signal. She was trapped. Then she remembered the hammer she saw in the kitchen drawer. If she couldn't leave, she'd find out what was inside that room. Heart racing, she hit the padlock until it cracked. The door swung open with a groan, and a foul smell rolled out. Inside was darkness, damp, rot, and something else, something human. Her flashlight revealed a small, filthy mattress chained to the floor, and on the walls were photos, dozens of them. Every single picture was of Emily, taken through the windows over the last 2 days. She backed away, trembling, until she heard footsteps behind her. Slow, heavy. She turned. Gerald was standing in the hallway, his face empty. In his hand, a kitchen knife. Whispered tone. "If you're holding your breath right now, hit subscribe. You're gonna need it." Resolution. Emily ran. She slammed into him, knocking the knife from his grip, and bolted out the door into the forest. The branches tore her skin, but she didn't stop. She ran until she saw headlights, a gas station by the highway. Police searched the Airbnb that night. Gerald was gone. But in that locked room, they found IDs, torn clothes, and a trapdoor beneath the mattress. It led to a crawlspace filled with remains, guests who'd disappeared over the years. The Airbnb listing vanished the next day. And Emily? She deleted the app, threw away her phone, and swore she'd never travel alone again. Pause. If you ever stay somewhere that has a locked door, don't ignore it. And before you go, make sure to subscribe because the next story is even darker. Tyler Nguyen was used to being alone. As a travel vlogger, he'd slept in vans, tents, even a cave once. But this trip, this was supposed to be peaceful. He found an Airbnb deep in the Oregon woods. A modern cabin made of glass and steel. The photos were stunning. The listing said, "Perfect for solitude, perfect for clarity." Exactly what he needed. He planned to film a video titled, "Living Alone in the Woods for 3 days." When he arrived, the host, Marcia, wasn't there, just a short note on the kitchen counter. No curtains, no blinds. The view is part of the experience. The first night was quiet, too quiet. Tyler set up his camera facing the massive glass wall that overlooked the trees. He wanted a beautiful time-lapse of the stars. Hours later, while reviewing the footage, he saw something strange. A faint outline in the reflection of the glass. A face, watching from outside. Short pause. If you saw that in your own footage, would you stay another night? Hit subscribe if you'd be out of there immediately. Tyler didn't. Rising tension. He told himself it was just pareidolia, a trick of light. But the next night, he saw it again. Same faint face. Same spot. Then the night after that, it was closer. Each time, it appeared in a different window. He walked outside with a flashlight, heart racing, calling out, "Hey, who's there?" No answer. No footprints. Just the still forest. But the next morning, muddy handprints streaked across the glass wall, right where that reflection had been. Tyler tried messaging Marcia. No reply. He checked her Airbnb profile. It was gone. Deleted. That's when he started to panic. He grabbed some sheets and covered the windows. But hours later, as he tried to sleep, he heard it. Faint rip. Then another. The sound of fabric being torn away. One window at a time. Whisper tone. If your heart's racing right now, you know what to do. Subscribe for more true stories like this. It's about to get worse. Escalation. Tyler ran upstairs, slamming the bedroom door. He tried calling the police, but his signal kept cutting out. Downstairs, his camera was still recording, the red light blinking in the dark. Minutes crawled by. Then he glanced at the live feed on his laptop. The living room was empty. Then something stepped into frame. A tall, gray figure. The skin almost translucent. Its eyes like dull glass marbles. It didn't move at first, it just stood there, facing the window. Then, slowly, it turned toward the camera. Tyler's breathing grew shallow. He unplugged the laptop, grabbed a knife from his backpack, and waited in silence. 3 a.m. The sound of glass shattering downstairs ripped through the night. Climax. He ran. Out the back door, into the woods, barefoot, clutching the knife. The cold air bit his lungs as branches whipped his face. He didn't dare look back. But something made him. Between the trees, flashes of white. That same gray figure, gliding silently behind him. Tyler screamed, tripped, hit the dirt hard. When he looked up, it was gone. He stumbled toward the faint glow of a highway and flagged down a trucker. The man said Tyler looked like he'd seen death itself. Resolution. Days later, police went to check the property. They found Tyler's camera and laptop, still recording. The footage showed the figure moving closer every night, pressing its hands to the glass, staring in. And in the final clip, the camera turned by itself, slowly, toward the bedroom door. Investigators later discovered the Airbnb listing was fake. The land had been abandoned since 2012. Tyler deleted his YouTube channel, moved back to the city, and anytime someone mentions solo cabins, now, he just shakes his head and says, It's not solitude if something's watching you. Pause. Would you ever stay in a glass house alone in the woods? Comment below and hit subscribe before the next story starts. Trust me, you'll want the lights on for this one. Drop of Blood Story 3. The Guest Who Never Left. Soft urban ambience. Faint traffic, hum of a fridge. Sofia Morales had just landed her dream job in Denver. She booked a cheap Airbnb apartment for her first month. Stylish, central, and way below market price. Too good to be true. Her host, Clara, messaged politely, though something about her tone felt distant. When Sofia arrived, the place was perfect. But on the counter were 2 house rules scribbled on a notepad. Do not enter the laundry room. Do not move the hallway mirror. She laughed. Weird rules, but okay. The mirror, though, that was strange. It wasn't centered. It was slightly tilted and bolted to the wall, like it was covering something. Whisper tone. If you've ever rented a place that just felt off, you know where this is going. Make sure you hit subscribe before we go deeper. Rising tension. The first week went fine. But then small things started to feel wrong. Her toothbrush wasn't where she left it. Food in the fridge disappeared. Her phone charger moved to the floor overnight. She brushed it off. Maybe she was tired, distracted. But one night, while watching TV, Sofia caught something in the mirror. A shadow, a faint movement behind her. She turned fast. No one. Her heart pounded as she walked closer. The mirror looked darker somehow, as if something on the other side was moving just out of view. The next morning, she pressed her ear against it and heard it. The faint, slow scratching. Escalation. Her fear turned to curiosity. She grabbed a screwdriver from her bag and loosened the bolts. The mirror lifted slightly, and behind it was a hole. It led into the wall. The air that came out was damp and sour. Inside, she saw a sleeping bag, some food wrappers, and clothes. Someone had been living there. Sofia ran out of the room and called the police. When they arrived, the crawlspace was empty. Everything was gone. The officers laughed it off. Probably a maintenance hole. Don't worry. She tried to believe them. But that night, just past 2 a.m., she woke to a whisper, coming from behind the laundry room door. The one Clara told her never to open. Pause beat. If this were you, would you open that door or leave everything behind? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed because this part gets dark. Climax. Sofia grabbed her flashlight, shaking. The smell of mildew grew stronger with each step. She turned the handle slowly and pushed the door open. At first, she saw only boxes. Then something moved behind them. A man, crouched, eyes wide, pale skin stretched thin over sharp bones. He looked at her and smiled. Sofia screamed, slamming the door shut. She ran barefoot into the street, screaming for help. Police arrived minutes later and found him still there. He'd been living inside the walls for months, crawling through vents, sneaking out at night to steal food, and to watch the guests while they slept. Resolution. When Clara showed up, she looked horrified. She claimed she had no idea, said the apartment had been rented before she even bought it. But investigators found old cameras hidden in air vents and wall sockets. The place had been used to spy on guests for years. The Airbnb listing was removed the next morning. Sofia moved out that same day, leaving everything behind. She never used Airbnb again. Still, sometimes late at night, she swears she hears it again. That faint scratching, coming from behind her mirror. Pause beat. If you're listening to this right now, double-check your walls. And don't forget to subscribe, because our next story might be happening closer than you think. After a 12-hour drive, Sofia finally pulled into the quiet Denver suburb just as the sun dipped below the rooftops. The Airbnb looked cozy, a single-floor apartment with soft yellow lights glowing through sheer curtains. For the price, it almost felt like a steal, almost too good to be true. Inside, the place smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. The floorboards were freshly polished, the walls painted a soft gray. Everything felt curated, like someone had tried a bit too hard to make it look lived in. On the counter, a printed note waited for her. 2 rules stood out immediately. Do not enter the laundry room. Do not move the hallway mirror. Sophia chuckled under her breath. Weird flex, but okay, she murmured, folding the note away. She figured the host just didn't want guests messing with her stuff. Still, something about the mirror caught her attention. It was bolted to the wall and slightly tilted downward, like it was hiding something behind it. She unpacked, showered, and made tea, letting the low hum of the refrigerator fill the silence. It wasn't until she turned off the lights for bed that she noticed it. Her reflection in that tilted mirror seemed to linger a moment too long after she'd stepped away. She blamed exhaustion and shut her eyes tight, unaware that something behind the wall had begun to stir. Rising tension, 300 to 700 words. The first week passed quietly enough. Sophia worked long hours at her new job, came home exhausted, and tried to settle into her new routine. But small things began to bother her. A spoon she'd left in the sink would be back on the counter the next morning. Her perfume bottle kept shifting slightly each day, a few inches to the left, then back again. One morning, she found her shoes neatly lined up by the door, something she didn't remember doing. She laughed it off. Maybe she was just being forgetful, still getting used to the place. But every night, that mirror seemed off. When she scrolled through her phone on the couch, she'd catch faint movement in its reflection. The shadow of someone walking past, right behind her. She'd turn, heart racing, but the apartment was always empty. The more she tried to ignore it, the stronger the unease grew. Eventually, she started sleeping with her bedside lamp on, comforted by the warm yellow light. Then came the scratching. It started softly, a dull, irregular tap, scrape, coming from behind the hallway wall, right where the mirror hung. She sat frozen in bed, the sound coming and going like slow breathing. It stopped just as suddenly as it began, leaving only her heartbeat echoing in her ears. The next morning, while making coffee, she spotted something on the counter, a long, dark strand of hair, too long to be hers. Her chest tightened. Someone had been here. Escalation. 700 to 1,000 words. By the following evening, paranoia had fully set in. Sophia examined the mirror closely this time. Her fingers ran along the frame, cold metal bolts securing it to the wall. She pressed her ear against the surface and heard it. A faint hiss of air, like an open vent on the other side. Her curiosity overcame her fear. She fetched a screwdriver from her suitcase and began loosening the bolts, her hands trembling. The final screw fell, and the mirror came free with a soft thud. Behind it was a hole, a narrow, rectangular opening in the drywall, big enough for a person to crawl through. Dust, cobwebs, and the faint, sour smell of mold poured out. She gagged and aimed her phone flashlight inside. There was a sleeping bag, a pile of food wrappers, an empty water bottle. Someone had been living there. Panic hit like a punch to the chest. She stumbled backward, dialing 911. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived. They inspected the crawl space, shining their flashlights inside. When they emerged, one shrugged. Looks like an old maintenance access. Nothing recent, he said. But the sleeping bag, Sophia began. Probably left by a squatter months ago. Don't worry, miss. You're safe. But she didn't feel safe. After they left, she sat on the couch with her luggage half-packed. Every instinct screamed to leave, but exhaustion won out. She told herself she'd check out first thing in the morning. At 2 a.m., she woke to whispering. It was faint but unmistakable. A low, rhythmic murmur coming from the laundry room, the one she'd been told never to open. Her phone screen glowed in the dark as she texted the host. Clara, someone's in the house. The message failed to send. The power flickered once. Then silence. Climax, 1,000 to 1,200 words. Sophia grabbed the flashlight from the counter. Her fingers shook so badly she nearly dropped it. The apartment was dead quiet except for her own uneven breathing. Barefoot, she crept toward the laundry room door. The air grew colder the closer she got, damp and heavy, carrying the faint stench of mildew. She hesitated, then turned the handle. The door creaked open. The beam of her flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating piles of old boxes and a cracked tile floor. Then she heard it. Breathing. Not hers. Slow, raspy, coming from behind the boxes. "Who's there?" she whispered, voice trembling. The flashlight trembled in her grip. The beam slid across the wall over a broken shelf and stopped on a face. A man crouched there, skin pale and stretched thin over his bones, eyes wide and glassy. His clothes were filthy, his lips cracked and dry. He stared at her, unmoving. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Don't tell her I'm here." The words froze her blood. She screamed and slammed the door, throwing her full weight against it. Something thudded from the other side, once, twice, then stopped. Sophia ran. Out the door, down the steps, into the street, her bare feet slapping the cold pavement. She fumbled for her phone, sobbing as she called 911. By the time police arrived, she was crouched behind a parked car, shaking violently. Resolution: 1,200 to 1,350 words. The man was found hours later, hiding inside the walls, between the apartment's wooden beams. He had built a small network of tunnels connecting the laundry room to the hallway and vent system. Inside, police found discarded food, a flashlight, and an old phone filled with photos of former guests sleeping. The host, Clara, arrived during the investigation, pale and trembling. She swore she had no idea anyone was living there, claimed she thought the noises were just rats. But Sophia noticed the way her hands shook when they mentioned the mirror, like she already knew what was behind it. The police believed the intruder had been there for months, maybe years. He'd slip out only at night, taking food, clothes, and watching. The Airbnb listing was deleted the next day. Sophia packed what little she had and moved to a new place across town. She couldn't sleep for weeks. Every creak, every sound behind the wall made her flinch. She covered every mirror, checked every vent twice before bed. Weeks later, lying in her new apartment, she finally started to drift off, until she heard it. Tap, tap, scrape. Her eyes shot open, staring at the dark wall beside her bed. Silence. Then one more sound, faint, deliberate, close. Scratch, scratch, scratch. And then nothing.